first.
Go ahead. I'll catch up in just a second. Sorry, I'm getting slow.
You're fine. All right,
I can do this.
I would like to call to order this Tuesday, November 21st meeting. of the
This conference will now be recorded.
Council, and ask Phyllis Pullman for the roll call, please.
Counselor Belt,
Here.
Counselor Carey,
Here.
Counselor Lopez is excused, Counselor McKeel. Here. Counselor Oberst,
Here.
Counselor Salinas Oliveros,
Here.
Mayor Kuntz.
I am present, and Councilor Carey, would you need to signify?
We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, we actually have a couple of items on our consent calendar. Our meeting, minutes of the meeting of October 17th, and a special meeting that was held last week on November 14th. If there are no corrections or additions to the minutes, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Councilor Belts for the motion, Councilor Salinas Oliveros for the second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Great. Seeing none opposed up there. We have an opportunity for public comments. We have no one in the audience tonight for public comment, I don't think. And Phyllis, do we have any comments submitted, or is anyone online to provide public testimony? Phyllis?
Thank you, Mike.
There were no comments, Mayor.
Thank you very much. That brings us to our business agenda, and we do have a couple of things this evening. Our first item is our Q1 and financial report, as we're already past the September 30th date, and we have stuff to measure. Susie Marston, our finance director.
Good evening, Mayor and honorable council members. Susie Marston, Finance Director for the City of Wilmette. In your packets, I've provided first quarter financial report for our new fiscal year, 23-24. I'm going to run through some highlights, and of course, if you have questions, I am more than happy to answer questions that you have. Overall, the budgets are looking good and on track, both on the revenue and the expenditure side. I did note in my cover letter that we had higher than anticipated insurance costs due to the addition of the skate park and the trolleys, which impacted the general fund and the transit fund. Having said that, though, we're still on track for the time of year that we're in. So this represents a quarter of the way through the year, and the budgets are on track with that. Let's see, so at the end of June, so the end of last fiscal year 23, and in this quarter, I made two big transfers from the Urban Renewal Fund to cover the costs of City Hall, and that's in accordance with what was identified in the capital improvement plan and also budgeted and approved. Also in the first quarter, I did make a transfer from the special capital projects fund, which leaves approximately right now, as of September 30th, a little over $1 million. And I believe, well, I know the plan was to use all of that fund to finish the City Hall project. Let's see. So I provided the watch list, and I did mark 3 areas that we're watching. One is the fines and forfeitures, which has been the norm for a while. I just want to keep an eye on that. The other one was the urban renewal fund, and I've got that on the watch list because it is in the fund balance is in the negative right now because of the transfers that I made to cover the city hall costs. But I expect that that'll be fully recovered by the second quarter due to the property tax revenue coming in. So as of November 17th, the property tax payments have generated $536,000. So that's halfway through November. So I think it's reasonable to expect we by the end of this month that that could be recovered. Plus, staff is going to be meeting with our financial advisors to discuss borrowing to put more funding into that fund to support the projects that are planned. The gas fund is also showing a negative fund balance. Just that's a timing issue. We're not able to recognize revenue based on how the billing comes in from Salem area mass transit. So again, that'll be caught up in quarter 2. So not worried about that. I was able to provide a pretty comprehensive list of the capital improvement projects, thanks to the department heads. They gave me a nice update. And we did learn this week that the Madrona Crosswalk project did go out to bid. Bids came back, and so the city is currently vetting the appearance of lowest bidder. So that is good. The interest rates still remain high, and the feds don't expect that the interest rate will come down until they see a CPI of 2%, an average CPI. The projections are kind of all over the board from months to years. So I listened to, it's a webinar, an investment webinar where I try to keep track of all that. But anyway, for now, the interest rates are high, and in comparison, this year to last year at this time, we've earned twice of where we were at last year. So doing fine there, and that's definitely helping out our funds. So with that completes my report, and welcome any questions.
Counselor Carey.
Just a couple. You referenced a couple times in the staff report and then in your discussions right now, the large transfers from the urban renewal to the city hall project, which we're anticipating. I guess the question is, are those large transfers beyond what was budgeted, and to what degree they were?
They were not. They're actually right in line with what was budgeted and identified in the capital.
Okay, good. I expected that it was. But, and then in the street fund, you indicated that we're rolling over some of the surface transportation block grants in anticipation of is that state money or federal?
It's statement.
Okay. And are there any dates on which we need to expend that, or are we allowed to accumulate that as long as we need?
I would have to check. One of them we do have to do in the fiscal year, because I believe it's an annual allotment.
That's, I think, for sidewalks and that sort of thing.
Right, yeah.
I think we have to.
I'll have to check the contract to get the expiration date on the other.
Well, it's not a big deal, just other than to alert us all that if there's something we need to approve to get that money spent, we don't want to be the impediment to that. Assuming that it's not a significant deal, that's good. Final question, does the city do any business with Umpqua Bank?
We do. Yes.
Have we considered transferring somewhere else? Given their move, their
Right.
flight from downtown Monmouth.
Yeah, we have not at this time. Their Monmouth branch is closing January 19th. It's the last day. Our staff, we're gonna have to go to the Independence branch for our deposits, but we're gonna move to making remote deposits. We've got check scanners. We can scan the checks and they'll deposit. So it should eliminate the need of having to go to the bank every day, unless we have, a lot of cash that we need to get it. I've not explored that yet, but if it's a desire of the council.
Well, we have, and we've closed our account.
And that's where I'm headed to, John.
And, if they're not willing to support us, and then, I'm not, personally, not speaking for the city and not directing in any direction. But I think it's something that could be considered. It may result in nothing, but it might.
And the city would have to do a banking RFP, right? Have to go through
Yeah.
the entire bid process, get competitive bids.
Sure.
Look at the fees and things in
Sure.
addition to the location.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions about our quarterly financials? All right. Thank you, Pam. Thank you. Sure, everybody's happy to see the same yellow-green
Yeah.
report.
That's such an easy concept, Paige, it's like, I get that.
Woe to the finance director, whoever decides to change that. All right, and our second item is a proposed amendment based on new state law, which incredibly makes things actually easier for us rather than more difficult.
Thank you, Mayor, for that lead-in. As usual, you've pretty much given half my staff report. So you should do something, so thank you for that. Tonight, council, we're presenting for your consideration ordinance 1411. It's an amendment to our local purchasing rules, which are part of our Monmouth City Code, section 3.20. The state law that the mayor referred to was adopted in the most recent legislative session, and it increases the threshold for the city to procure goods and services and public improvement contracts. So the threshold is increased for goods and services from $10,000 to $25,000, and makes the process to procure those goods and services easier by allowing the entity who's doing the contracting to contract by any means practicable. And then an informal procedure, which is the 3 quotes or proposals. These are all practices that we currently follow, but at lower dollar thresholds. And then public contracts under $25,000 can be awarded without competitive bidding. So in an effort to be sure that our local code is comporting with state law, we're bringing an ordinance to amend that section of the code. And would ask for your consideration and first reading tonight, if that's something that you'd like to do. And I'd welcome any questions.
That is permissive, it's not required, correct?
Correct.
So we could choose to, to go through the bid process should we deem that necessary. That would be one of the acceptable, should we decide we want.
That's true.
Yeah, so we have flexibility.
That's true.
All right. Yes. Rebecca.
I would make a motion that this is the first reading of ordinance 1411.
Second. Thank you, Councilor Sluis-Solberg for the motion, and Councilor Belts for the second.
We
And
don't usually take a motion on the first reading, do we?
no, we don't.
No, it's been read for the first time, yeah.
So we're just following directions. Oh, I did put a motion section into the staff report, but I figured the mayor would do.
I didn't read it, and so I was just starting when they started rolling. No, I would like to declare this first reading of ordinance number 1411, an ordinance amending portions of Monmouth City Code section 3.20.110 relating to public contract, and have staff bring back for second reading on it up. And that brings us to our work session. We have a fascinating evening talking about solid waste and power and light this evening. And I'm so excited to introduce our solid waste partner and good friend, Josh Brand.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. I'm Josh Brandt with Brain Sanitary Service. And, I did bring a little bit of an overview, so I tried to stay on track because I know we're trying to stay on schedule here. So I'm going to get that up. But I thought it would be good to come in tonight, just discuss a few kind of where our future is going in our industry, mainly. Obviously involved recycling, but that involves truck emissions, growth, just basically kind of a few of those things. And then also the update on the needs assessment that we talked about, which was basically had to do with that Senate bill, if I remember correct, 582, which is our Recycling Modernization Act, which cities filled out a needs assessment, and that's where the producers of material now are putting into a big general fund, and now then what are called pros are going to disperse that to starting with rural communities first and then moving their way more towards metro. So those are kind of a few things I thought would be probably good to talk about now, kind of get it back in the year and kind of prep us for 2024. The other thing is, and part of the reason I brought it up is I was fortunate enough I got nominated and somehow elected to be on the board of directors for our ORA Association, which is basically our Oregon for Haulers Association. And so I started that venture, and I've been to one meeting. I actually am not officially on the board until 2024 due to a 3-year term. But it's been a great opportunity. It gives me the ability to kind of hear a little bit more about the legislative side that I don't follow too close, although I'm trying to get better. And then it allows me to represent small haulers of small communities and actually have a voice. So I've been to a couple of conventions and one meeting, and I've gotten a lot of information from that. And that's why I thought, well, after one of the meetings, I better get into council and have a conversation with them and chat, because that timeline of 4 or 5 years ago when we were talking about recycling is now finally kind of coming into place. So that's kind of the general overview of what I wanted to chat about. I'll start first with that needs assessment for recycling. So what direction that's going in is they're still finalizing that bill in its entirety, but it has been implemented. And part of that is that needs assessment the city's filled out. And at one point, DEQ is going to reach out to probably the city manager, but they're going to ask a couple of questions, and one of them is going to be who you want to be your representative for that. Now, it's a city's thing, of course. I'm an entity of you. But I am more than happy to be that representative for you if that's something you are interested in. I think, of course, we talk plenty. I can't make a decision without you guys anyways. And so, but I think my knowledge in the industry, kind of understanding the community a little bit, it might be something to look into. And that's going to be a decision that's going to have to be made here in the next 6 months or so. Independence has been chosen a little closer for kind of an early entry kind of conversation starter. And the reason for that is mainly just because Monmouth, we have a little bit more infrastructure here in regards to recycling, since we have the recycling center they don't granted for both communities. But so they're looking at that. So that'll help you get a little bit better understanding of what exactly they're looking for and how that works. And so it's just, that was kind of the main thing, is I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that I was interested in being a representative. If council wants to take that on their own, I'm more than happy to just be a part of that. But I'm also more than happy to take a larger role with that. The other thing, kind of is a little bit of planning too, which I thought was important to bring up, is truck emissions. So I'm not sure how much councils kind of follow along with that, but Oregon can choose from 3, the EPA, California has its own, and then there's one other one in Europe, I'm not quite sure what it's called, but Oregon has chosen to follow California standards, which are by far the highest, hardest, quickest, craziest standards across the board. And when I talk about emissions, it's basically right now that conversation between diesel and electric. And right now, DEQ just actually put a proposal in to delay any activity till after 2024 into 2025. California is moving forward 2024. That tends to affect bigger haulers than me. It's more like, 50 trucks, 100 trucks, maybe even larger than that with some of the on the scale. But eventually, as of right now, a tentative date of 2040, they expect our fleet to be fully electric. So granted, there's some time in place for that. I think it's going to come a lot quicker than we think, and that standard could change. That it could be, sooner than that. And I think it's so important because one, we don't know a ton about it from the trucking side, and that even goes for California. I think it's going to be a large learning curve to that. But I'm trying to do my best to keep up with it and kind of understand. We're smaller. We basically run 8 trucks a day, so we get pushed back a little bit longer and farther back. But with that said, that's a direction council can think about. That's a direction that I can think about, just figuring out that information. But we're starting to get into some costs associated with that as well. So I think some planning, some discussion over the next few years, however we want to do that, I think would be important and worthwhile, just to make sure it doesn't get thrown to the back of the folder, and then we're kind of playing catch up, because I hate to put kind of that burden on the community all at once versus kind of a slow ramp up to kind of where that could go. So that's.
Josh, just quickly on that, are there electric vehicles available like you would need currently?
Yes and no. So right now in 2024, how it works is all retail, they have to sell 60% electric before they can sell a diesel. And those are layman's terms. I didn't want to get into the weeds with what the engine's called. It's called a legacy engine for diesel. Mm-hmm. And so you do run into serious production struggles right now. So the good thing is I've turned over my fleet in the last 6 years. Probably are looking at another truck, maybe 1 or 2, but we have a little bit of leeway with that. But yeah, that standard's getting held. It starts in 2024 from a production side. And so you're going to start to run into, you might not even have an option to do anything but electric, which I don't know how that would, Mama's Power might know more, what that would do to a power grid. For me, I would have to probably. Yeah, and so, there's still a lot to learn. But the difficult thing that I brought up at our convention was, California's going full in on this. And I honestly don't even know if they know what they're getting into. So I proposed, hey, why don't we kind of see what goes wrong, let them make a few of the corrections, and then maybe it gives us a better timeline to maybe make a smarter decision on what direction that goes. I'm not against electric. I don't have. It really doesn't matter to me in the sense of they seem to work efficient enough. Corvallis has one in their fleet now, but they're very limited around here. Capacity is good. We're fortunate because our travel time even to a landfill, we're the shortest. So we're in a great location that helps us for that. And then our county routes might get a little bit interesting, but that we can figure out when we get to that point. the largest problem is, you know, production, getting in line. Because what's gonna happen is, especially with those large haulers that are 100, 200, 300, those fleets have to turn over. So from a production side, it's gonna be a massive push at the beginning, which is gonna be great to be able to do legacy engines, keep diesel going for a little bit longer. So that's our hope. The problem is hopefully that levels out at some point that makes sense. That's kind of.
It's interesting, just going through this also with a school bus fleet. And the big issues are there's nobody to work on the electric vehicles.
Correct.
So if you have one go down, although maintenance for them is much better, but once one goes down, there's nobody to work on it. And then the other is distance. We've already determined for the central school district, we have one route that we can use electric on.
Yeah.
Because all of our other routes are long enough that the current range for electric, full-size electric school buses we wouldn't make it.
Yeah.
Can kids get up and push? Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really interesting. That's basically our recycling and truck emissions are basically the two largest topics right now in Oregon when it comes to the garbage hauling side of things. So it'll be interesting. There's a lot of people working on it, trying to figure out which way to go. Like I said, there's a few haulers out there trying it out. Of course, Republic size, they're so large. They have other areas in the country that they're already running them. And so I talk with them quite often to kind of see how it goes. But, you know, again, I think it's just going to be kind of slowly keep at it and see where it kind of gets and kind of what happens. Trying to get back to the other thing that I wanted to talk about. Well, it's still basically the recycling market, back to that Senate bill. But they're getting really close to actually having a standard for recycling across the board, which I've talked to you guys about before. But the newest thing they're doing is you're no longer in Oregon, is it going to be based on each city, what they can do. It's a flat standard of what's expected. And that's mainly talking about plastics. So when we're talking about those numbers, and I still get angry, I have a great letter right here that maybe anybody can be more than happy to read someday from a customer, but it's just wrong. People think that I'm the one that makes a decision. People think it's the city that makes that decision. And one, they think it's about finances only, and that's just honestly not the case. Oregon has always been in the forefront of recycling. It's simply trying to manage things on scale. It's trying to come up with processors that are willing to handle certain commodities. And we're just at the stage right now that I think in the next 20 years will be the largest change for my industry since going automated, which seems it was fairly easy. I think the next 10, 15 years is going to be very interesting for my industry. And I think you'll see a lot of change. And I unfortunately think you're going to see a lot higher costs associated with that. It's just where we're at in it, whether it's trucks, whether it's landfills closing, going into transfer stations, whether it's getting those recyclable commodities to the certain places they need to be. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm just being upfront. I don't know. Some of that stuff's in the air. That's why we're trying to figure it out right now as best we can. But they are coming up with those standards, which will at least help the chit chat that it won't be us as a city that are making those decisions about numbers 3 through 7. The fact is, California just put into their, they just put in a bill to eliminate all labeling of recyclables because the problem was those were created by those that make the plastic, not by anybody in my industry. I know I've told you that plenty, but the number system has nothing to do with recycling. It is just a piece of art on the plastic, but people follow that. And California has actually put it in. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes by, because that would be helpful. And it changes it more to just what the product is, how it's handled, what materials were in it, how clean we can get it and, you know, where the market's at. So that's good. We're moving kind of in that direction. Do you have any questions kind of on that? Recycling, the pros, I know I'm going quick, but I'll be in a few more times here in the next few months, so. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, one of the things I know we always talk about is what can we encourage the community to do to improve what we're doing?
Yeah, you know, our community does a pretty good job, really. I mean, we have a lot of contamination. We have a lot of, still some wishful recyclers, which is, I mean, it's not a bad thing. In all honesty, I don't know why certain plastics aren't recyclable. But I'm not a processor, I'm a hauler. So I don't know, maybe it's a $1 billion idea that everybody's sitting on and no one wants to do it. I don't know. But we're pretty good in our community. I just want people to understand that I know it can be frustrating. Obviously, COVID put a larger, it increased garbage basically. There was a lot more of it, and some people haven't gotten out of that, which has increased their cost, and they're trying to get as much stuff in the recycling bin because that's what they consider free is. And ultimately, that's the problem, is that all gets pushed downstream no matter what, and the cost gets taken care of down the road regardless. So if people had a better understanding of trying to do it right, which is just follow what rules and regulations are out there that we try to send out and have on a website, or I have phone conversations all the time. We're trying to do a video right now that might help with that. It's trying, basically community members need to stop taking it so personal that we really want recycling. And that's why we don't put a huge push on contamination fees. We do look into some cards for frequent offenders. They take that personal. It's not personal. We have to do our part to reduce that contamination stream. And that's this Modernization Act will help with that, because not only are they holding cities and haulers accountable, they're actually holding the processors accountable. So now they're starting to take figures from the inbound material and outbound material, and they're looking to get some of those numbers that used to be about 14 to 9% outbound, which is really high for outbound. That means it's not getting separated real well. They're trying to get those numbers below 5. And if we can do that, I think you'll start to see that recycling market improve again. I think then you can start introducing maybe a few other items down the road that might make a little bit more sense.
Go ahead, John.
Just one sort of tag on what Roxanne was talking about. I keep reading about the impact of food waste in landfills and the degree to which that's creating methane gas. It's creating problems with that whole functioning. So, and I know we just moved food waste to our yard debris. I'd like to see us, sort of promote that a bit more.
Okay.
Sort of to her point, if we could take the pressure off the landfills, it would be helpful. And then, and this is a little bit hard, but how much time do we have left with Coffin Butte? You talk about the adjacency that we have and the advantage of that. There's a lot of pressure on to hold that expansion back. What's going on that?
Yeah, they're still working on trying to get that expansion. It was declined last time. I don't know how often they get to go back and do that. I think the numbers, we have a little longer than what you'll hear at the coffee shop. I think there's probably, hopefully maybe 12 to 20 more years. I know that's kind of a wide range, but I'm pretty hopeful. But with that said, it could also be 6. And that's the tough thing about getting kind of a plan in place for that. I've already have a few plans in place, just like we have to. I have to declare where I would take if the landfill was ever closed for a reason. And there's a MRF, not the burner, but there's a transfer station in Brooks that we would transfer to. The problem that goes is if that becomes a regular basis, now we're driving through the Salem area, it's increased routes, that means increased payroll, it's a lot more fuel, it's into a transfer station, which is gonna be double the cost per ton, and I already do millions of pounds. So I think I do about 13,000 tons a year of trash. And so you're talking about a substantial increase of something that you're looking in the millions if that landfill, it doesn't keep going. So it's definitely something that we need to keep an eye on and look at and think of ways that we can help reduce that and kind of create that little bit of a rise in the hill versus a complete climb when it really goes down. But I'm hopeful that we could get 15 to 20 more years out of that. And yeah, I think yard waste is super helpful. Again, I can only do so much to get education out there, have conversations. It tends to fall on the consumer if they're willing to take the time to make those changes. I always say the easiest way to reduce your cost in trash is to be a conscious buyer. So when you're going to the grocery store, don't buy things that are in materials that aren't recyclable. Make sure you take your own bag or get a paper bag. That is recyclable. The plastic bag is not. Even the white ones that say they're reusable and recyclable, they're recyclable for you to reuse them, not to go into a recycling bin. And so I think that's the best way to help reduce trash, reduce waste, reduce the landfill. But some of that's out of our control. If Highway 84 closes to Arlington, Portland Metro pumps a lot of trucks down this way, and Coffin Butte's the place they go, and that's when town gets really, 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 really busy with transfer trucks, and the landfill gets big, and that's an unknown number that can happen this time of year a lot more often than it does in the summer. So we're hopeful.
So
Robert?
I'm not gonna let you go first ever again, you took my question. But I do want to say, I've spoken with 3 of my neighbors who were totally unaware that they could put plate scrapings, peels, et cetera, into their yard. And, even up to and including pumps. And they were quite surprised by that. So I'm kind of thinking that if you could lay out the economic argument for that and know with bills, it might go a long way to say, if you will do this, it might help keep your garbage bill from going up quite as soon. And put it in economic terms so people can see if that can catch hold. I've got 2 yard debris cans, and one of them is now closer to the door than it used to be.
Yeah.
But at this time of year where you don't really want to walk out in the lawn and in the rain, I think making more people aware of that, and asking people, and tell your neighbors. Because that's what I think.
Yeah, we've done more inserts this year than we have in the past. I need to ramp that up. We're getting to the point where it's almost every building cycle, which is fine. We have a lot more people signed up on email, which is fabulous. Again, that reduced waste, less paper, it's recyclable. Great to keep that out. The more people that I can sign up on our app or through an email, paperless, it's an easy way to get a lot of that information shot out. So
I was going to ask, how many users do you have of the app, or how is the tape reader? How do you feel about the app? I love my app.
it works out really well. I get a breakdown. I brought it every meeting except this one. It's great. We have probably, the users tend to be 3 to 4 a month. You're not going to see a ton of growth. We got some at the beginning. But I think we have somewhere around 5,000 notifications a month currently going out. Now that can be one household, depending on if they've set notifications up for several things. But people are using it. We are doing a blast. I don't know what else to call it. I'm not very good electronics, but for Thanksgiving. So everybody is going to, that's on that app is going to get a blast that pops up when they open that notification. It shows how we're running routes, and it's a great tool to be able to kind of get that information out quick. Of course, we'll see more and more people do it. It's harder to get a certain generation to get on board with that a little bit more. It's a tough thing because it does cost us about $6,000 to $8,000 a year for it. So I would love to see a lot more out of it. But it takes a little bit of time. We introduced it about 3 years now. Didn't really promote it in year one, trying to get the kinks and everything out. So we've really only been doing about 2. Still haven't drastically promoted it, other than every customer knows with inserts and when they start service and all that. We do the spiel and you can see it online. But that's an area that we're looking to kind of improve on. I just have a couple more points, but I want to make sure I get your question.
No, go ahead.
My only other things was just, I wanted to also come in because we will be looking at coming in here real soon, once my financials are done, to discuss rates again. Part of that is the landfill has increased their price per ton again this year. It seems to be every year for the last 5 years. I don't know if that'll ever change, but that's our largest bill. So that, the rate increase we did last year was fabulous. It will most likely will be wandering in here again. But with that, kind of the main reason is I want to take a look at our rate schedule. What I mean by that is a lot of the detailed information. Because over the years, my family's been doing this for 75 years. We provide a lot of services that aren't actually on our rate schedule. And so it's not that you're going to see a massive increase in cost because of that. We just simply want to make sure that we get it on council, on the paperwork, through council, and everybody's on the same page so that we know that we're doing it the best way we can. And some of that stuff involves, which is a big question we're getting, is additional yard waste. We used to do that. The problem is now yard waste is expensive, and what was happening is you have places have 6 or 8 of them for their house, and they're only getting charged $5 per month, but you're dumping 25 yard debris containers. And so that cost, though it might be small, is getting pushed on to every single other person. Where we need to get some of those certain services just on a rate schedule. So we'll have to get a little bit into the weeds when I come in, but we have a great list, kind of, I don't know if you want to, we don't have it on an Excel, but it probably will be on an Excel, easy to view, of services that we probably just need to make sure we are all on the same page. Or if there's additional services, we want to make sure that we can get those on there because, we don't mind doing more things. It's just I want to make sure that those costs aren't getting pushed on to every single customer if it's an added on service. So that's kind of the main part of that conversation. So I just wanted to come in and kind of voice my opinion on the Modernization Act and the pros, to reach out to me if you need me to do that, and kind of talk about the truck emissions and just say you might be seeing me a lot more, just in the sense of keeping us kind of focused on it and make sure we stay up on it. So, are there any other questions or?
No,
Okay.
doesn't look like
You
it.
guys made it easy on me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brandt. And with that, we will switch to, Steve's sitting back there shaking his head about more electric vehicles everywhere. We carry our Montman Power and Light Director. Give us a good department update.
Madam Mayor, members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. Hopefully hopefully everybody had a chance to read the memo. I submitted for the packet, and as I stated in there, my goal is to come every quarter and provide you an update of what's happening with Monmouth Power and Lights and the things that we may be doing, or some of the issues we may be facing. So that for this first go around, I thought I would start with some pretty high level things, power supply issues, conservation, things like that, just to bring you up to speed with what I've been getting my arms wrapped around in the first 6 months since taking the position. So right now, probably the biggest thing that Monmouth Power and Light is watching, and as well as the region, is power supply. And I'm back there shaking my head. The big electrification is a big buzzword right now, and EVs, and outlawing gas plants and all that. While all of that is really, really good, and it does ask the question, where does all of this power come from, right? As I stated in the memo, for years, the Northwest was really blessed with an abundance of low-cost hydro electricity. A lot of that now is just gone. The population of the Northwest has grown. As you see more and more people leaving other states like California and coming here, of course, everybody who comes here, every new house that's built, every new business that opens, it's going to need electric power supply to it. So you couple that with a lot of the regulations that have been placed by states as they force the IOUs, PG, Pacific Power, Puget Sound Energy, all of those in the region, to shutter coal plants. And the idea is that we can make up all of this shortcoming with solar power and with wind, which, while they are good technologies and they're proven technologies, they do come with some obstacles and some drawbacks. When we look at projections for how much power we're going to need by the year 2050, to get that much power by 2050, and if you wanted to do it with wind, you would need about 250,000 acres to put a wind farm big enough to meet that goal. You'd need about 150,000 acres to do it with solar. The only problem is the only place that this land is available to do this is nowhere where transmission lines are. The state is looking to put 3 gigawatts of power out into the ocean. Again, where they're looking to put these, there's not a lot of transmission. I've actually seen one proposal where the wind farm down off the southern Oregon coast, they would run underground cables from there all the way up the Oregon coastline down the Columbia River to the now abandoned Trojan nuclear site. Because that's the only place they've got transmission that's already built and is really not being used. BPA is struggling mightily with getting transmission permits approved to put in not large transmissions. Forest Grove, I think, has been trying for 10 years to put in a 6-mile transmission line. And it's just almost impossible. So when we think about power supply and how we're going to make up these shortfalls, the question becomes, how are we going to do that? One of the big promises is modular nuclear. And of course, nuclear in Oregon is kind of a dirty word. We were really hopeful that there was a project that was going to be taking place in Idaho, partnered with a company called NuScale Energy out of Corvallis. Who's going to partner with the Utah Energy folks. And we were all hopeful that this was going to happen, and so we could kind of see how it would perform and what the cost would be, but we just got word about 2 weeks ago that project was canceled. So now we're back to the drawing board. There's a lot of talk about the breaching of the 4 dams on the lower Snake River. If that were to occur, to replace the power from those 4 dams with solar and wind, we would, even if we doubled what we were doing in the region with solar and wind that we're doing right now, we would not be able to deploy enough of those technologies until the year 2070 to make up the power of those 4 dams. So as I watch and try to project our power supply, and Monmouth's small, we don't have a lot of low growth, which is pretty good right now. I worry most about that point when we go from the low cost tier 1 power that we're getting now to the higher price tier 2. And right now, tier 1 power is about, for us, it's about 3.6 cents a kilowatt hour, or $36 a megawatt. Right now, tier 2 is $63 a megawatt, or 6.3 cents. So when you think about that point when we actually get big enough to where we're no longer surviving on the amount of allotted tier 1 power, it will have a substantial impact on rates. Right now, we are actually over what's called our high water mark. Back in 2010 and went into effect in 2012, Bonneville gave the city of Monmouth, as well as all of their utility customers, something that was called a contract high water mark. And that was based upon historical purchases that each customer had given, and it allots us a certain amount, a certain percentage of the capacity of the federal hydro system that they manage, as well as some wind and solar in the nuclear plant in Washington. But that high water mark fluctuates every year based upon the capacity of the system. So let's just say hypothetically, 2 turbines at the Bonneville Dam were down for maintenance, which happens pretty regularly. The system size during that time would be reduced. The amount of power we would get for our allotment would be reduced. Right now, we're so small over our high water mark that even though we're above it, we're not in tier 2 power yet. We pay what they refer to as a shaping charge, which is a small financial added to the bill. Or if we're under, we actually get a credit. So we usually get credits through the summer and pay through the winter. But we're not anticipating being above the point where we hit tier 2 until about 2029. So then the question becomes, what can we do to stave off load growth? I mean, we don't want to not have load growth as a city. It certainly helps other things, right? So how do we lessen the impact on the electrical demand that we deliver to our customers? We've been doing conservation for a long, long time. You know, conservation started back in the early 80s. Bonneville collects a lot of money in their rates that we pay and pass on to the customers that we get back every year in the form of what's called an energy efficiency incentive, or EEI. And we get about $180,000 every 2 years to administer energy efficiency programs. The problem is we've been doing conservation for so long that a lot of the low-hanging fruit is no longer there. So now it's harder to go find it. Plus, over the years, Bonneville's list of approved measures that we can give incentives for has shrunk. And that's a whole nother convoluted story that has to do with the Power Act and the Power and Conservation Council of Portland deeming what is cost effective. So when I think about cost effective from an energy conservation standpoint, I think, how much money do I have to offer somebody to put in, say, a heat pump that's going to save so many thousands kilowatt hours a year? The rules state that what does the measure cost to install versus what it saves. And as prices for everything has gone up over the years and the price of power has stayed relatively low, more and more things are no longer cost effective for us to offer. So that makes doing conservation even harder, makes it harder for us to spend the money that Bonneville collects from us. One thing that we can look at is Monmouth has a pretty small number of customers who've deployed solar. I think we have 16 or 17 now. And one of the first things I learned upon getting here is that our net metering policy, the policy that states how we buy that power, is actually very customer unfriendly.
We've heard.
And so, you know, back years and years ago when it was adopted, it made a lot of sense because the power that say I generate and put back out onto the grid if I don't use it, the only value to Monmouth is the fact that I didn't have to buy those kilowatt hours from Bonneville because they just went to the neighbor and I didn't have to get those from Bonneville to serve that neighbor. But now we're in the point where the value of power is actually going up for us. And switching from a monthly true-up to a yearly true-up, say March, is much more customer friendly, would have a financial impact to us. They would be very small, but every kilowatt hour that somebody generates is a kilowatt hour we don't have to buy from Bonneville. And the amount of kilowatt hours we get to buy from Bonneville very cheaply is starting to become diminished. So that is one thing we could think of doing is changing to a yearly true up. You know, change the ordinance that we have in the code that dictates that. I think it would, we hear from contractors when they call in to ask us about our program, we offer no financial incentives, which we could do. We would have to budget for that, but we could offer an incentive for people to do this. And then they tell us, wow, with your net metering policy, it's hard to sell it to the customers because there's no really value to the customers for it. And then lastly, I just wanted to touch a little bit on one other thing another thing that the city could look at is a community solar project. That sounds simple. The state has some really sizable grants right now that we could take advantage of to where we could offset the cost to install that. The idea with the community solar is we could build it and then sell the output of the system to customers who wanted to buy it. In my time at Central Lincoln, we actually did one of these. It was really, really successful. But it all mattered, it depended on the grants that we got. They kept the price of the panels as we sold them really, really inexpensive. But again, it allows people to buy into solar without having to buy a full system for their house, right? Or if they rent, they can still buy panels and they can still partake in solar power. The main question we have is, one, where do we put it? Two, does our billing software handle that kind of program to divvy out those credits? Those kinds of things, but those are all just logistical things to work through. But it is something you can certainly consider. If we put in a sizable system, the max that our contract with Bonneville allows us to do is a 200 kilowatt system. Anything over that is considered a power generator and affects our contract with Bonneville. So, but a 200 kW system would produce about 225,000 kilowatt hours a year. Back in the napkin kind of math. So that's not a bad chunk that we can take off what we're purchasing from Bonneville if we wanted to go there. And then lastly, I'm sure everyone's familiar with the cost of everything going up. That is something that is hitting the utility industry really, really hard. Not to mention the lead times. We were talking about trucks. Right now, we're hearing that a digger derrick truck, which is the truck we use to dig holes for the poles and set the poles, 7 years to get a digger derrick.
Go ahead, order one of the other.
Yeah. Order an electric.
Yeah, what's that?
Order an electric one, please.
Well, then, put in some big EV chargers. So like transformers for houses and for neighborhoods, they used to cost us for a 25 kV transformer was $1,300. Now they're almost $13,000, and they're taking close to 2 years to get. It's getting so bad for transformers, poles, and wire. And some of the other Salem Electric now is they've got subdivisions that they're not even allowed. They don't have certain parts to finish building the distribution system for them. Most of it's all underground related stuff, pad mount transformers. Some utilities are putting in underground cable, and then where the transformers would go on the ground, they're actually setting a pole and putting pole mounted transformers, because most utilities have a lot of those in stock because we don't use them as much anymore for new work. And then they run the line up and then back down underground, and then when they get the transformers, they're going and pulling the pole out to put in the pad mount transformer there. So it's a big, big problem. Even if we don't, Bonneville put out not too long ago that they were going to hold rates steady for 24 and 25, which I was really glad to hear. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's not going to affect our rates, because the cost of everything else, material-wise, is going up. Wire has gone from $6 a foot to $17 a foot. Poles now are, yeah. So you kind of get the point. Staffing is another thing. Right now, we're short 2 linemen. And so that really makes it hard for us to do some of the work, but we're not alone. Everybody's short people. So just some of the issues that we're kind of working through. And you know, as I come every quarter, I'll be able to maybe make these more pointed to certain topics that you want to hear on, but for this first pass, I thought I would just start. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
And I think we all heard at our town hall when we asked our community about things, there was a very vocal proponent of community solar who then forwarded us a lot of information. I know we would have some real champions for that in our community, so I think if we figure out a way to offer that, I think we would probably, it would be pretty successful. Councilor Obers?
Two things. First of all, yes, on installers of solar in our net metering policy as it exists. We talked to a guy in Minnesota in Albany, and two things. One was our net metering price was so low, he said it would take 25 years to pay it back. We also have a house built in 1965 with pushback and other odd things about the electrical system. He said that would cost a lot to fix. So it's not just the net metering, and that bit about the panel makes me really interested in the community solar, because if I don't have to rewire the house to take advantage of solar, that would be of interest to me. So you can put me down for the champion of the community solar. And this is just sort of a curiosity for me. I've heard many times we're waiting on parts for City Hall, right? We have them, and electrical parts. And you're waiting on parts, and so the Micro's waiting on parts. Has there been a great decrease in manufacturing capacity of these parts in the US? Are the prices up because the prices are up, or is there a logical, reasonable reason for why things have gone up 950%?
There's actually two things that are impacting supplies. First is COVID. The world has just not recovered from COVID yet. So there's not as many steel producers operating, everything is harder to get and more expensive.
Right.
It's getting so bad that the Biden administration is contemplating using they use the wartime, what they did with ventilators during COVID.
Sure.
They go in and they tell Ford, you're not making trucks anymore, you're making ventilators.
Right.
So they're actually contemplating doing that, especially for transformers, because there's just not enough of them. Another thing, there have been a series of natural disasters, one after another, fires that have gone in and wiped out entire communities, and that's where a lot of those materials are going. Plus, large entities like PGE, if you drive by a PGE or Pacific Power yard, they have hundreds of these. Right, as I stated in the memo, there's some manufacturers now that won't take small orders.
Sure.
And for Monmouth, we don't buy in bulk. And so one of the first things that I had to deal with here is we needed some poles. And so we went to go buy poles, and I looked at the lead times and I said, we need to buy about 3 times more poles than we normally do. Just because we need to get them here. And if we put in a really small order, we're going to keep getting pushed down and pushed down and pushed down.
Are there enough small utilities around that y'all could form a purchasing consortium together? Or?
There has been some talk of that, but that's a lot of times easier said than done.
Okay, so I'm sure. I just wondered if
Right. And, utilities can sometimes borrow from other utilities, and I've been doing this a long time, and I've got a lot of good connections at utilities surrounding us, that if we had to have something, we could probably get something for a short term. But, this is hitting all of us equally, so.
Thanks.
Councilor McKeel and then Councilor Carey.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Wade. I might have missed this when you were talking, and I apologize if I did. But I'm wondering, and it's a little out of your purview necessarily, if we need to be working with new home construction to make sure that they are solar ready. So for example, I live in a newer home and was looking at putting solar panels on the house. But I have a gas furnace, a gas water heater, and actually we had just replaced our furnace, and had we put in a a heating unit, what is it called? Anyway, if we had put in an electric unit, it would have been more reasonable for us to put a solar panel in. So instead of having the homeowners try to add this to a house, if we could have encourage our developers to either make solar ready or to have solar homes. So that if we're like, if we're all doing it, it's not somebody who's taking the financial risk to get out there ahead of other people. I'm sorry, it's 9:30 where I am. So, so if we have all the developers doing it, not one developer is making homes that are like this, but all the homes are like that. So it makes it easier for the entire city to move that forward. Is that something we should be looking at as a council?
I'll tell you, thank you for the question. The state, before Kate Brown left office, she had already passed a law and I can't remember what year it goes into effect. It might be 24, where all new homes have to be solar and EV ready. And what that really means is that there's conduit that runs from the roof down to where the panel is and things like that. So that's already coming. One thing that's really curious to me is how having a gas furnace made your home less attractive for solar than say having an electric heating source. So maybe they were only talking to you about that from a payback because your load would be relatively low. And if you have low load and you have a lot of generation, then that, because of our net metering, your excess generation is paid out at such a low rate that it really extends the payback. Now, I'll tell you, the payback on solar, even with a really customer-friendly yearly true-up, is still going to be in the 18 to 20-year range. And that just factors in because we have less sun than other parts of the country and our rates are low. So solar is always going to be a hard sell here in the Willamette Valley. But anything that we can do to make it even a little more attractive will be beneficial.
Councilor Terry?
Thanks for your report, Wade. It's very enlightening and discouraging on one hand, but we need to be looking forward. And well, I think we all share the concerns about the impact on the electric grid of more electric vehicles and so forth. They are coming and will be a thing. And so I think, the degree to which we can plan for that, the better off we are. So we had some discussion a year or so ago, and we really haven't gotten back to our sustainability value that we have, and we'll be approaching that soon, I'm sure. You'll be an important part of that conversation. And the development of infrastructure, at least if not charging stations in new construction, I think is important. Now, you mentioned that the governor had required that, for new home construction. I think the bigger issue is parking lots for apartment buildings because they don't have those individually. So, I think we really ought to think about how we can look at ways to easily make the conversion, provide those charging stations in those areas. The effort that Tesla had to go through on Mission Street to get all of those charging stations up, when they went from with now or whatever it was, the Dodge dealership to a Tesla, it took a long time and was a very expensive process. If we can get out in front of some of that with our new development, I think it would be wise. So you and Suzanne maybe could talk or whatever we can do on getting out in front of that.
Right. You're right. One of the things that we're looking at is in new residential developments, we're up we're planning to upsize transformers so that we're traditional, because less people will be going with gas appliances. More people will be having EV chargers. Now, granted, most of the EV chargers in homes, even at the level 2, they have a very small impact on the grid. And they charge at night when our load is small and stuff like that. So we're already looking to take those steps and thinking about when we're going to be, a developer comes to us with, say, an apartment complex or something like that, talking to them about if they're planning EV chargers, where they're going to put them, so we know to keep our infrastructure close by and things of that nature. Where from a utility standpoint, where I really start to worry is when we start thinking about level 3 chargers, the fast DC chargers. Because the electrical demand on those far exceeds the value of selling the electricity. Trying to slam that much electricity into a battery over a 10 to 15 minute period of time is a pretty large hit on the electrical system. And depending on where those may be sited within the service territory, some of the areas may not have the electrical infrastructure there. So then we're talking about upsizing wire, larger poles, larger transformers. So yeah, that's something we're keeping an eye on. A lot of electric utilities have been having this conversation of, do we put them in, or do we wait for somebody else to put them in? What do we want to do? And some utilities have said, hey, let's put some of these things in ourselves. Other utilities have said, why do we want to go that far when our business is to sell kilowatt hours, and regardless of who puts them in, we still sell the kilowatt hours. So I'll caution you from a city standpoint to tackling the installation and providing these for folks, because once you do, you own them and you got to maintain them, versus allowing other companies that are making money doing this to come in and do it for the communities, and then they have that headache, and all we have to do is sell the kilowatt hours.
Right, I don't think we want to get quite that far, but it would be reasonable to put, underground infrastructure. So when the provider does come in, they don't have to dig up a parking lot in order to get it done.
Right. Depending on where it's at, that's probably, if it's something that's existing, that's probably going to need it, But that's something we can certainly help them with. Every developer, we ask their plans around EVs and stuff like that. But if somebody wanted to come in and say, put them in the parking lot there by, I don't know the name of it yet, but where the Little Caesars is, right? If somebody wanted to come in there, then yeah, there would have to be some underground work done to get power out to those parking spaces.
Sure.
So it's okay, the marketplace.
Yeah.
It's called either way. Councilor Overs, to wrap it up
I have
here.
sort of a general, this discussion has just got me wondering, and I think, Lane, this may be a question for you. Can we require more than state code does? For example, can we require an apartment complex that's coming in de novo to put conduit in the ground for the eventual addition of EV chargers, even if they don't want to put in the EV chargers? Can we require, it sounds like Governor Brown took care of Councilor McKeel's question with putting in conduit in houses for solar panels and EV chargers, but can we push beyond? And I have this nagging thing in the back of my head that says, no, we can't.
Yeah, that's a building code question. And it probably, I'd have to look at the code.
Okay.
Yeah, if the code regulates it and establishes a limit, that may preempt the city's ability to go beyond. That may not always be the case. It may not be a preemption, so that I'd have to look at it.
Okay.
It's being done.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are areas where you can. I'm just not sure what those areas are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious. Thank you.
All right. Well, I like this being first and quarterly, because the education for us takes so much away, and looking for, and Carol McKeel has one last comment.
So first of all, Mr. Carey, I have to apologize for my dyslexic reading of your name. It's not Mr. Wade, it's Mr. Carey. I apologize for that. Second, we're talking about working with other agencies, and this is really out there with an idea, but there's the farm that is north of Monmouth along 99 that has quite extensive solar cells sitting in their field. Have we, excuse me, have we looked at partnering with farm areas where they would be willing to put out the solar cells like that? Like if that business north of Monmouth expanded their solar cells to help us out as a city. And maybe that's too out there, so.
No, I don't think it's too out there. I mean, any place you have some flat ground or even a south-facing hill, you can put these. My concern would be that if it was farmland, I don't know that it would be, you'd be allowed to use up farmland for a solar farm.
There's a big development going on proposed in Lynn County that's putting that all to the test.
Okay. Yeah. So we can certainly watch that, but, you know, we do have some small parcels of city land that you could put a pretty sizable community solar. I think about the space that's behind Power and Light now off of Warren, that we could put something back there. The Power and Light building does have a large south-facing sloped roof that you could put some there. So I think we could find plenty of places in town that we could use without having to go too far. I mean, the further out you go, then, you know, you got to make sure you've got infrastructure to bring that power back at certain times of the year.
All right, start gathering your questions for 3 months from now, people. And
You've been warned.
that's right, because Wade never has anything to do in the months of like January, February. So. Okay, and thanks. So, all right, and that brings us to another department update, our newest department overall, our communications coordinator extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire, I love that. And so then Phil's going to give me the ability to present to you all. I'm going to pull this bad boy a little bit closer. All right. Phyllis, if you could switch me over to the presenter view, that would be fantastic.
I gave you permission to present already.
All right, beautiful. Thank you. Pardon me again. Okay. All right. Well, so my name is Saber Jewell. I am the communications coordinator here for the city of Monmouth. Just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you about the work that we have done this year and what we have planned ahead. Did want to give you a little bit of background on me. Many of you don't know me that well. I've only been in town for 4 years. I'm relatively new to the community, but a little bit involved in the community. Currently, I serve on the board at Western Oregon University on their foundation. I will be the incoming Rotary president for the Monmouth Independence Rotary. I am on board in the Northwest Hub in Salem. I serve with the mayor at the Monmouth Independence Community Foundation. And you may see me from time to time emceeing events for the AARP Oregon Conference and Chamber Awards. And I say all that to say, wherever I am in the community, I am representing the brand of the city of Monmouth. So when I'm out there, I am representing all of you. I have a degree in communications from the College of Charleston, a master's in public administration from the college at the University of Colorado in Denver, with a concentration in nonprofit management, where I just spent the last 10 years of my career. It is a pleasure to do this job because I believe in the power of communities to change the world. And so this job allows me to do that. You are all busy people. Many of you have full-time jobs. Many of you have either children or family members that you are taking care of. Many of you serve on boards and committees yourself. I'm going to show you a lot of ways that you can learn about the city, but I do not expect you to connect to every single one of these. But please pick a few of these and connect. I know a couple of you receive the manager's notes, the city manager's notes every Friday. That is a nice overview, but if you want to get a deeper dive, I'm going to show you some items of interest. Now on Facebook and Instagram, if you connect to either one of those, you're going to see relatively the same content on both of these platforms. It's also the utility bill news. For all of you Monmouth utility bill customers, you receive this in the mail. It's a short little blurb. You'll see mayoral notes and other things that we have going on in the city. But if you're like me and you get your utility bill online, you may not receive this. So you can still see our community notes by going onto our website, clicking community notes, And then as you can see, you can click on any array of the ones that we have for the last year. Now, I mentioned the e-news. If you are not subscribed to our e-news, I recommend you do, because what is in our utility bill notes is amplified in that e-newsletter. You can click on that city e-news link down there, and you just put in your email address. Now, I know many of you read it, because yes, I checked to see which one of you read these e-news. And there's an opportunity for a few more of you to sign up for this opportunity. And the e-news is great. It's got clickable links, a lot of great photographs. Pretty much everything we've done in social media for the month will be included on there. So if you're not into social media, you'll be able to see the happenings around town. We are active on LinkedIn. When I arrived, we did not have a page, and a couple of our city employees were connected to Monmouth, New Jersey. So welcome to Monmouth, Oregon, everyone. If you are on LinkedIn yourself, please follow us or attach yourself to the city of Monmouth. I would really appreciate that, because we share a lot of really great stuff, especially with oncoming searches and recruitment. We'll get more into that later. Oh, I can never get too tired of telling you all about Monmouth Monthly, the peak of the heart of the Willamette Valley. We are 11 episodes in right now. If you are into podcasts, these are short episodes, and you can get a lot of great information from that podcast. We are also featured on KMUZ, third Tuesday of every month at 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. And you can hear the Monmouth Monthly episode on that as well. Now, of course, there's a website. We have news and announcements on the front page of that. That's just a couple of things that you can find there. So if you're just on the web, just pop over to our website. Of course, the good old media, right? The newspapers, because we are still trying hard to get into our print and digital media. If you don't want to search every newspaper on the planet for the city of Monmouth, Google Alerts is a great way to be able to kind of know if we've made the news. So if you need any assistance signing up for Google Alerts, I do recommend your Google Alert be for the city of Monmouth, Oregon, not just Monmouth. You will be flooded with a lot of things that you don't really hear about. So let's get into some metrics.
Yourself too.
Oh, yeah.
Google it. So you're on Google, or in case you're ever in.
That's true, yes, yes. So in understanding that your goals are communication and engagement, sustainability, and DEI, just know that the work that I'm doing tries to look through that lens. When I see that I am failing in that, I always try to keep reminding myself of what your goals are so that we can maintain that work together. So let's talk some metrics on these things. So know that you want to see that the work we're doing is actually paying off. This is a little bit of our MailChimp metrics. We freshened up the newsletter in January, gave it a little bit of a facelift. It goes to about 1,950 subscribers, and utility bill goes to about 4,000. So that's all the people that are getting our monthly information on that. Now, we're pretty impressive on our open rates, and we always have them. The industry standard is about 34%, and we come in at about 50%, 51% on our open rates. So people are looking at what we're doing at a very high level. Now, the click rates is where I'd like to see us improve. Industry standard is about 6.1. When I arrived, we were at about 1.3. Right now, we're at about 2.6. So we're getting there. We're moving the needle, but I'd really like to talk to folks who have those better click rates and see what their secrets are. We've added more links behind all of our pictures. So if somebody hits a picture, it's going to take them to a link. A lot of great ways to register for programs on there. Even email addresses. If there's an email address, you hit that email address, and it'll open your inbox. So we're trying to find ways to maintain that. We do have a cost to this platform. It's about $69 a month, about $828 a year. We use it for other services, for our local program. We're going to be sending out things to this service, Monmouth Mary Market, and we would certainly use it for any other reason we would need to mass communicate. So it's certainly worthy of that cost. Instagram. This is a new platform. The intern that preceded me set this up sometime, I believe, around July, and we've grown it about 504 followers. Now, what's really impressive is the reach is up about 346%. And reach just means who sees us. Now, they're not interacting yet, but it's getting in their suggested content. Other people are liking it. Those algorithms are kind of putting it in their face. The cost of this is nothing, by the way. This is the beautiful thing about this level of social media. It doesn't cost us a thing. The audience breakdown is interesting. We're about 75% women, with the majority of the audience being from Monmouth and Independence. On Instagram, I found those outside of Monmouth and Independence. We're outside of the state and in Portland Metro, so that was interesting. And yet interaction of our content is up 100% from over last year. That interaction is people like it, if they share it, if they comment, and if they're tagging themselves or if they're tagging us in the things that they're promoting. So we're seeing a lot of great movement on this platform. It's similar to our Facebook, but we try to put obviously more photographs in there and links in our stories and ways for people to get involved. Facebook, since October of last year, our reach has increased over 180%. So that's huge. We're now being seen by more than 100,000 people in this calendar year. A lot of our followers are outside of the area. 94% of the people will come into our Facebook account and check us out from outside. There is only one cost associated with this particular mechanism, and that's when we boost posts. And I do that sparingly. I did a boost for our history and mystery event, and we have anecdotal evidence that we got people in from Newport because of that, people in from Portland, for Dallas, all. So we know that that did bring in people anecdotally. I would love to be able to find better ways to be able to tell you how many people actually came in because of that. We know it got a lot of volume and we've seen a lot, but how many people actually came in because of that? LinkedIn, as I said, is our newest addition to social media. We really are using this to appeal to our vendors, the folks we work alongside. It's a great recruiting tool. A lot of the reshares are coming from, this post here was all about our topping out ceremony. And it was reshared over 5 times, had quite a lot of likes, several comments, and the people that reshared it were all of our vendors, right? OTAC and Swinnerton, and I think it's FAA is the architectural company. So those are the folks. Yeah, so it's great that those folks are sharing out. This really elevates our brand as a city. When people are looking, if they want to come work in Monmouth, they're going to check our LinkedIn page to see what it looks like. And if you go to our LinkedIn now, it's chock full with award photographs and all the great things you all are doing. So boy, we look so good on there right now. And again, the cost of this is zero. We have gotten a 7% increase in followers in the last 30 days. And I'll be interested to keep tracking that as we start promoting positions that we have open to see how that ticks. So I'm pretty excited about the LinkedIn move, and I know our vendors and partners are our most active sharers on that. Maybe you've heard of Monmouth Monthly. Not sure. Okay. So just so I can brag about us, we have listeners in 4 continents, 7 countries, 27 states, and 80 cities. If you see a state on that map that is not colored in blue or a continent not colored in green, please have your friends like, rate, subscribe, review. Monmouth Monthly has had over 460 downloads of our 11 episodes. The top 3 were about the skate park, the trolley, and library services. Were the top 3 ranking episodes. We have found that the podcast is helping answer a lot of questions out there that people are having, and our media partners are actually going there first and listening to those episodes before they schedule interviews with people to make sure that they've gotten some questions answered. So we're finding it's really helpful. The KNUZ connection is fantastic, being able to have that playing in Salem. The reach of KNUZ goes out to Dallas, all through Salem, sometimes down to Fort Dallas on a really good day. And the running national talent, thank you, Phyllis Coleman. Randy Cohen, Vice President for Americans for the Arts, was with us. The interview that he had prior to us was in NPR. And so it's nice to be able to give people the same level of quality that they received elsewhere. Now this podcast, because we feature so many Woo alumni and students, they put it in their alumni newsletter. And so a lot of times that's going out to over 100,000 people. So it's a little bit more visibility there. There is a cost associated with this, but it's reasonably small. The cost of the studio is $20 a month. We record on Vindy Commons. They have a top-notch studio. All the equipment is there for you, except the little things I had to buy to hold the recording. So I spent about $44 on equipment for myself. The web host cost us about $144 a year. We did have a fan of the podcast, because we do have fans, mentioned that he's living with hearing impairment and he had issues getting in all the information and asked me for a transcription service. And I hated the fact that he had to ask, right? Because ideally we want people to not have to ask us for these things that they need. So lesson learned from me about where one of the spots that I had where I needed to elevate myself, right? But we provided that for him. I did get a transcription service that not only I can use, Phyllis can use it. Anyone who's recording meetings can use that to easily get meeting notes put in. And now every time you go to our podcast, you can click a link and get the transcription there. We've had other folks who are living with hearing impairments take advantage of that as well. So I know that is being used, and I'm pretty excited about that. Now, KNUZ cannot track their metrics on their end on what they're getting with their current system. They are changing systems. They are community radio. They're moving with the times. but they did say with their new equipment, they'll be able to give us an idea of maybe how many folks are listening to our show every month. Other duties, as a side, when you get me, you get an event planner. You get someone with a background in hospitality management, food, beverage, and all the nines. Now, a lot of the events that we do cross over with the other community, right? And so I work alongside folks over there to get these things done. We just combine our talents and we just do it. We've had some really, really great events this year. The trolley ribbon cutting had about 200 folks. The skate park groundbreaking, while it had about 50, the ribbon cutting had about 350. Topping out ceremony for our little building had about 50 to 75 people there. Our town hall, the first one had 50 folks. The second one had considerably more. So a few more for that one. But what an incredible experience. I don't know about y'all, the conversations that I've had with folks since that. I mean, I grew a lot of great relationships through the work we did together on those town halls. We did plan another one, so be thinking about that. Also History and Mystery Monmouth, we had a great crowd there, about 350. Halloween Spooktacular brought in about 350. City Hall dedication, wow, man, that was great. About 150 folks showed up. We had media coverage from 3 different outlets. Staff engagement was off the charts. The community excitement was great. And of course, the house band in Monmouth was there, so you know I was happy. Now, these events, a couple of these aren't mine. They're because of folks on this council. The AAPI, Pride events, those events are spectacularly done. Thank you for what you do for those, specifically Councilman Salinas Oliveras and Councilman McKeel. You all have done great work engaging the community in that, and it's my pleasure to help to continue elevate those. And so please let me know what I can do to help you as we move forward with those events. The website is pretty, Love Local. We did take some stats for Love Local to compare us to where we were in 21 versus 23. Now 22, we did scratch off ticket, which is why you're not seeing that. But for this year, Love Local, I really made some efforts around marketing that. We did some videos. We did increase. The white is where we were this year. The blue is where we were in 21. So with participation and businesses benefited, we saw an increase on both of those. And also the amount of money spent and utility credits issued. And we're going to keep running this data every year to see how we can keep improving that. We'll do videos again this year. We're going to keep pushing the message on that because that is a great benefit to the community. I know I enjoy the discount to my utility bill. Website was interesting. So interesting to see what was going on there. 12-month snapshots of that 97% were first-time visitors to our website. And July 3rd is off the charts. And they were looking at 2 things, y'all. They wanted to know where that trolley was going, and they wanted to know the activities. And knowing that even more, especially now, where exactly they were going, you better believe we're going to enhance the website for visitation on those days and make sure that we have even more out there for folks to connect. That was super exciting to see that we were the home for where all that was going. And the vast majority of people that were coming in were from out of state. So that was what was even more interesting about that. The majority of the people that visit our website are from Seattle. I'm not really sure why. Very random. Here's something else that I thought was super cool and I'm very proud of this about. Most of the folks that come to our website will spend about 45 seconds on each page. Even the top pages that everybody goes to, 45 seconds, boom. The HB 2006 pages that we put up were visited highly, and people were staying on those for about 2 minutes. That may not seem like a lot, but they were seeking out information. We were providing it for them, and they were sticking around and reading it. Yeah, I'm so proud of us. I think that was a great service that we gave to the community that not everybody made the choice to do. And I just think that just is a testament to providing the community with information and not hiding behind the responsibility to do so. So big appreciation to also Suzanne Duffner for help get the content to get that going, and Marty who we made that a priority to get that up in the community. So yay us, tooting the horn. Other things that I push is award nominations. Now, I'm not going to take credit for SEDCOR. I don't know who supplemented that, but all the other awards that we're going to get, yeah, we're putting in our name for that. And I'm going to keep pushing that our department heads get nominated for awards. Our police department get nominated. Every time I see it, I try to get them to nominate you all. Let me toot your horn. If y'all see things in your world that you want me to nominate you for, a win for you. It's a win for the city of Monmouth. So we can elevate our brand that way with those kind of awards. We also started, upon my arrival, the Polk County Communicators Group. Now, this group is myself, my counterpart at the City of Independence, the school district, Western Oregon University, and we have just added a marketing and communications director, Seth Ward, to our happy band of brothers and sisters. We meet monthly. We sit down and we talk about things going on in our individual cities. We're from different backgrounds, age groups. We're really able to support each other and help each other out. We're kind of like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We all have really unique brands of talent to get together. You see Emmanuel back there with his camera. I'm always in front of it. He's always behind it. And there's Emily just keeping us laughing. But we have built a lot of trust with one another, which I think is incredibly important because we're also working on emergency preparedness. And it's not just our little group of communicators. If you look at that photograph in the middle, you'll see fire departments represented, both police forces, the school district is visible. We're taking this very seriously, y'all. There have been tabletop exercises, active shooter drills. This was a talk about reunification efforts and what that looks like. And so, well, the work here is not done. We are just getting started, and that trust really comes in handy when if something were to happen in this community, that we would have a fundamental base of trust and know exactly where we need to go in that moment. We're not trying to figure it out and scramble. We already have an idea. Now, I know that active shooters are not the only incident that can get us. I know that earthquakes can happen and all sorts of things can happen. So the work, again, is not finished. We have a lot more to do, but just know that we are focused on that and committed to that. And we will keep hacking away. Multi-city rollouts, typically the event piece of that is going to be mine. Emmanuel will typically handle the video elements. On this, I don't know if you saw how I ride the trolley video. This was a very popular piece. A gentleman told me yesterday he and his wife moved to town a year ago, and they loved watching this video when they got here to help kind of learn the ins and outs of the trolley. Any of these multi-city rollout events, we work really closely with our sister city, but we definitely have an influence in how it is done with the event style. Also, I'm finding that community members are answering their own questions. I don't know if y'all are seeing that on Facebook and noticing, but when people have questions about the city, somebody's like, oh no, you just go to the city website, here it is, or oh no, here's the flyer. And I love that. That means we don't have to do it. And they're answering their own questions. I love seeing that behavior change. Media relations this year has been pretty good. We've had a couple of ups and downs with our local RAG and change in leadership over there. But we're broadening and expanding our horizons with other media outlets. And I intend on broadening that even more. We get a lot of great work with the Statesman Journal, Oregonian, but heck, let's get to the Oregon Business Journal. We're working right now alongside Independence to do some trolley marketing, to Travel Salem, Travel Oregon, and seeing how else we can expand that effort because we are focused on getting some funding for that. Rod on the road, man, that was great. He had such a wonderful time there, so much so he's trying to come back to the tree lighting. He's working on getting a photographer to come with him if he can pull that off. Then he will be returning. Because we exceed people's expectations of what they can expect in our production value in a small town. We give them highly prepared and materials. We've got great people. I mean, you were knocking the dead of jokes out there, Mayor. So I don't know.
He was going to hire Sabre away from us to coordinate all of his future things because she had him running.
But I had everybody's cooperation and enthusiasm, which helps when things get hicked up, like they're an hour late to show up because there was a fire off in the mountains. But yeah, we look good to these folks that come in from the big city. We're going to continue to look good. So what's next? And so much is next. Really, one of the focuses that we had internally is trying to make sure that we can get all of our materials in both English and Spanish. We wanted that to be just a natural thing that we do. The library is great at it. They do everything in English and Spanish, and some of the programming is even in Spanish. We're getting better. A lot of times for our town hall, we'll say, if you need translation services, please let us know. If you need disability services, but what an ideal world if all of those things were just set up for them. And that's the dream and the goal, is to be able to have our mechanisms set up to where someone shows up and they need translation. Oh, perfect, we have you covered. Because we just want this to feel like home when they walk in the door, not have them walk in the door and figure out what home means to them. So that's the goal, right? And so working with making sure the website that we have moving forward is easily translatable into multiple languages, and also that our deafblind community is able to access our website and our events with ease, without me having to ask, do you need any extra assistance? Because that just doesn't seem like inclusion to me, if we're doing it that way. But that's a work in progress, and the staff has been incredible about it, especially now with Canva and all these other these things, mechanisms, they have translation services. Now, just like any other AI program, you're not going to copy and paste that Spanish, you're going to send it to somebody first. But this at least helps eliminate the time that I have to send to our Spanish-speaking staff. Say, can you just write this for me? You know, instead of just checking it, right? So we're moving towards that. We have a great camera now, taking fabulous pictures. Miriam Haugen is also getting some great city photographs. As we change the website, we're going to run some rotating seasonal photos that look like our actual downtown looks now with our skyscraper and our new city hall. The rebranding process, super excited about that. We hired Ultra Media to do our rebrand. They're starting on that this month. You will see ability for the community to get involved. It means you to say what you want to see in those logos and what kind of iconography screams Monmouth to you. So that is happening, and we should see that roll out probably by the end of June. And then the website, we're going to be doing a refresh on the website. RFP, I just have to complete the scope of work on that thing and get it out the door. And then we'll have the website refresh. Also working with Susie and Kevin Perkins, our new assistant city manager, to talk about what that looks like for the rollout with changing signage, changing all of the shirts, changing everything, right? So you will get a detailed list of what all that would be so that you can make some really smart decisions moving forward and how to finalize all that rollout. I'm getting so close to the end. Y'all doing okay? All right. All right. So we're going to be growing the media relationships, more video content, recruitment videos. We got this camera now, we're going to use it. We've got a couple of positions that we want to get filled, and we're going to be doing some really great city videos to show why the value of working here. Our code officer, Officer Moran, wants to do Officer Moran's Code Corner, where I do little Facebook videos where he's talking about some things that he's seen around town, like, okay, RVs, this is getting out of hand, or whatever it is that he's seeing that he's running into that we can change the behavior. So we're going to be working on that. More quarterly town halls and better metrics. Anecdotal things and events doesn't always work for me, but how do we really capture who else coming to these things? And I'd like to know more about that. Quickly answer some of the questions that y'all have coming up. Rewards and challenges. This job is rewarded the day I come. The work that I get to do here is my dream. I am always happy when I'm here. I think people can attest to that. I'm in good spirits because of the people that I get to work alongside. Really, the biggest challenge has been there's never been any before. And even though every department's like, hey, come help me out, come be a part of this, it's still getting used to having each other, right? And leaning on one another. And again, they're open to it, but it's just about building that. And that's really been the only challenge that I can think of. Advertising in a newsletter. Nonprofits. If you're a nonprofit, tell your friends they can advertise in the newsletter. We try to get everything we can. That utility bill newsletter is not going to have as much room for community use, but that e-newsletter, we can fill that up. So people were asking how to be included in that. Try to get things to you by the 20th of the month, though, for that to go out. School district. How to get things going with the school district. Okay. We've had a lot of cool events that we've worked alongside the school district, and I want to keep those going so badly. So I think the best way to approach that is I've only really done one thing alongside Emily of the school district, and that was the trolley. That was a few months out. We talked about when the best time to roll it would be, and we had several months to work on it. Now, I love what you all have done every October with the schools, and I think if we wanted to continue that again, maybe getting in touch with Emily around spring and seeing if we could go ahead and plan that out so that we can continue to do those bags every year, because I love that level of engagement. I think it's important, and I think with enough time and prep, the school district is able to do that. Now, I don't have to be involved in every one of those conversations. I don't have to lead it, but if you want to see me when you reach out to her, that way I know I need to be helping you get something going, because I want to make sure that that is a seamless transition as well. And she is also making sure that the teachers aren't getting inundated. Peach jar, that's another way that we can reach the school district. We currently don't have an account for that. I'm considering, I really have to do cost analysis on it because it seems a little expensive, and I'm not sure how. I know our boards and commissions might use it. I may use it once a year. We'll sit down and talk about if that might be something, because then that's it right there as far as flyers go. But that wouldn't be the same as handing little bags out to the kids for the Halloween activity. So I would love to see that continue. And as we iron out any process with that, we'll let y'all know. I mean, a lot of us were just getting in writing because we realized that we need to get it down for community members to know how to engage in the way that's easy and efficient. So somebody said, what are we looking forward to the most? Oh man, that rebrand's gonna be good to get everybody on the same Pantone. You know how many colors of green there are in all these different City of Monmouth logos? I know that doesn't sound exciting to any of you, and I can't even, that looks really exciting. Yeah, they asked me about saying, like, oh, there are so many green. Yes, there she is. So I am looking forward to that great cohesion and being able to kind of unify that and make it recognizable. And Councilor Overs, you asked about community visioning. You know, I think that I'll be a part of that when there's glimpses of what people want in that 2020 or 2042 plan. I think the brand survey that'll go out will get a glimpse of that, but I think certainly when the new leadership comes on, that would be something that I'd be interested in, and I'm not sure when the last time y'all done that, or what, if you ever have had anything like that in the past.
No, we haven't.
Well, boy, that'd be fun.
I tried.
Okay, well, there you have it. Well, that is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Fire hose y'all with comms.
So one other event that just got added just a couple weeks ago, maybe we can put on your list, is the coffee chat that was held at the Senior Center here in this room with the finance director, and then I sat in on that one, and this month was about property taxes, and we had 10, 12 people.
I'd say more than that. I said 15 to 20, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. That spent a good hour and a half talking about property taxes with us. And so I think we did kind of commit to having one of those regularly, once a month. I think we're maybe setting aside time here, but would be potentially different community things. I mean, I think talking about power, light, water, and utility garbage. I mean, we could have conversations where people, we kind of set up and team up, people can come more about what we do, how we function.
And you know how that came to pass was the mayor was getting phone calls about property taxes, and Barbara was getting the kind of the same calls, a lot of overlap. And it was, why don't we just have people here? We're all getting these calls. And again, how awesome is that? That a mayor and a department head, a finance director can say, no, we'll take our time to do that for the community. So that jazzes me, so thank you.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of interesting things we could talk about. Boards and commissions could have a meeting, right? Talk about different work, so hopefully we can get those on the calendar as well. Yes, Councilor Overs.
So I just want to say, thanks on pushing on the awards piece. I had one city manager once tell me it was a waste of time to seek out awards, waste of staff time. I respectfully disagree, but you know. And I had another city manager once tell me that the cities are in competition with one another. So if you're in competition with one another, there's a truth there. If you're in competition with one another, it helps to occasionally raise your hand to make sure people see you. So thank you.
Even if I raise my hand, I'm very short. I have to stand on a very big box.
Well,
I'll have you raise
call
it.
me.
Yeah, there you go. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate your work on those things.
It's the right staff time, right? I think this position is perfect to do this kind of award nominations.
Yeah.
All right, oh, Councilor Creed.
One of the things you really did a good job of is you've done a nice job of elevating the brand. And I think that's one of the things that Monmouth has lacked perhaps over the years. Really conscientious branding. And I think that's really an essential first step. And I think that we've got, while it's all maturing, but it's the groundwork is laid, and you've articulated some plans that we'll take that hopefully to another level. Now that said, I think there's some opportunities here, and it's not like we need more to do. But you heard Josh Brandt's presentation earlier, and there should have been about 4 or 5 things that you ticked off, and I need to get with Josh, and we need to start that process.
It's gonna be a guest on the podcast, actually.
Well, there you go. Because, you know, he's got some real issues that he's dealing with industry-wide and branch sanitation as it relates to service here in Mountain Independence. So that's a spot where you could really be an important mouthpiece to get that information out there, so people can internalize that a bit more, and, you know, the recycling piece and a number of other things. So I think that would be pretty essential. And then we've got a lot of good things going on in town. And while it's nice to celebrate at the end, it's not, it would be nice to develop some anticipation as we hear about the development of Monmouth Recreation Park, a number of things you could tease on that, so people, and again, it's not like you need more to do, Sabra, but I'm throwing ideas out there that you'll quickly discard, but at least I'm getting them out to you.
Let's show people trying to walk across 99 and Madrona now.
Yeah.
We'll have a before and after.
The Abbey Road cover.
Yeah, we'll have people trying to dodge the car.
So these things are problems and issues that there are solutions on the way, and I think we could capture more if we sort of chart the path towards fruition instead of just breaking the champagne bottle and there you have it. I mean, it's great, but we've missed opportunities along the way. And, you know, one of the things that was absent in your presentation was any reference to Western and the articulation of Western Oregon. And I know there's change of leadership up there, and it's a fluid deal and everything else, but there's no question that the successes of the city of Monmouth and the university are linked. And so you may need that they need to be led by the hand because they're insular. You know, I mean, that's the nature of universities, unfortunately, they look inward. And so we need to know that they've got a back door and we're their front door, really. And so, you know, I think you've got an administration right now that is minimal of that may not have been there in the past 10 years or so. But it's fertile ground. And there are people there that can be helpful to you, as you well know. And so I just encourage you to do that. Again, you don't need any more to do, but that's just my 2 cents.
No, and I appreciate that as well, Counselor. And I think we all learned during the pandemic how important that university was. I think if people didn't know in our business community, when those students cleared out, boy, did they sure know it. I'm very closely working with Western. Their marketing director and their VP and I try to meet at least weekly. She's also a part of that communicators group. Right now, I'm trying to get a music program on KNUC called Lose It, where it's all just WU students doing performances in any WU band. There's also other opportunities for some of the WU communication students to go on KNUC and do their own programs for maybe an internship. So linking the university is, and I'm sorry that I didn't mention it, that is a failing on my part. They are a huge priority to me, and I know that they are a heartbeat of this community.
You know, you mentioned the music, and I think that one of the things that we can enhance the cultural vibe of Monmouth is for the citizenry to be aware of the musical performances that go on at Central High School, because they're quality, at least they were, back when the Kerry kids were involved. And then at both Smith Fine Arts, or whether it's, you know, any of those sorts of things, art shows, a number of things that typically are attended by a few community people and a lot of campus people. And I think that the livability of Monmouth is enhanced with that. Same would be true with athletic events. And so we can really enjoy the opportunities that are available in living in a university town. And that has been missed out in tonight.
Counselor McKeel.
Yes, thank you. Actually, this is really, I've been breezing through your Facebook page of all the stuff that's on there. And so this is, I love how you are presenting the city. I heard from a resident of Monmouth who has a LGBTQ a child, and they said, the parents said they moved to Monmouth because they saw the friendliness that Monmouth portrayed, particularly during June with the pride flags that went up and the pride flags that were up and down the street on our Pride Day. So I love how I was looking on the Facebook page, the Spanish that was there, so English, Spanish. It looks like we didn't get Pride in there though. That might be my fault. Maybe I was supposed to be sending more pictures than I did. But it would be, I like the start of this, but I think we could probably show more of the diversity of Monmouth a little bit more. Because it's, I think, as you were saying, people are looking at this to see, well, is this where I want to come? And if we are showing that there are all kinds of people here, I think it really goes with our city value of welcoming an inclusive city. So really kudos. This is a really wonderful, like, I love the English, Spanish that you're remembering again and getting those pictures in there. So really good start on that. Thank you.
All right.
All right, thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. I'll turn it back to you, Phyllis.
Having all of fun. Before we start our reports, a little break, perhaps. We do keep it 5 minutes or something. I do a little stretch break again. We'll We're good. So just, I would briefly, mayor's report, and I think I mentioned the coffee chat was, I thought, pretty successful. We had a good opportunity, some great questions. We had a little bit of press coverage, which was mostly, didn't have anything to do with what happened there, so hopefully that didn't confuse people. But it is a good forum. I thought it was a good opportunity to visit with folks about what's going on. Just one more way that we can do that. We have not really talked much about the recruitment process, and so I am still getting some things together with that. We'll bring that back to everybody so we can sort of set a timeline. I think at this point, unless I hear from y'all something different, I think the COGS proposal sounds very much in line with what we talked about. And rather than go out and try to recruit other folks, our partners there know us, we know them, they know what we're looking for. So I will probably invite them to come visit, see if you want to move forward with that. Yeah, we got Christy on board. We were able to introduce her at All Hands last night. So it was a great opportunity for her to meet folks in the community, and she's getting out there and getting busy, and we'll hear from her in a moment. So with that, any reports from our council representatives for boards and commissions? Councilor Selena Soliveros.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Arts and Culture Commission, we met on the 16th, and we had a great presentation from Suzanne Duckner about the Monmouth Downtown Plan and some of the information and some parts of the plan that go with arts and culture. And it was a really nice update. She gave us a really great handout, and I'm excited when she comes to review with council. But there's some different areas where the Arts and Culture Commission really aligned with the Monmouth Downtown Plan. So that was a really nice update from her. And then we also had Kathleen Mason from Ash Creek Art Center, who is the grant writer for them, and came and gave us really nice updates of what's going on with Ash Creek Art Center, how they're changing, some of their fall campaign that's coming up, some of the different activities that they're trying to do with after-school programs and homeschool kids as well, and really trying to expand their reach with Monmouth and Independence, and trying to keep everything still low cost, and then just keeping us updated on how we may partner together with arts and culture for them as well. So that was a really nice update. We talked a little bit about the art installation at City Hall, and Phyllis Bowman gave us a nice update. We probably won't even discuss that until maybe after January. Things have to calm down. There's a lot of things happening with City Hall, so we'll go to that later. And then there is a tiny art show coming up. It's in collaboration with the library. It's January 23rd through the 27th, and the art must not exceed 5 by 5 by 5. So it can be the library will be producing some free kits for children who want to be part of. I think it goes up to teens that can pick up these little 5 by 5 by 5s, and if they want to create something with that canvas and participate. So some of the materials will be free for kids to use, but it could be anything. Art, it could be anything that is 5 by 5 by 5, any art. So that will be very fun. And is it just for children? No, it's children and adults. Yeah, but the kids are for the children. Oh, yeah, it's not for the adults, for the kids. For kids and the teens. So that's coming up in January, and we are continuing to work on our 5-year plan. We did some good work, and we're also looking at a possible mural code, since there's more murals that are coming up, and CrossFit is considering one on their building, and I think they're working with the Historic Commission for that, and then there might be another one. I can't
remember where that one was. And then the AARP mural. And so it wouldn't be, we're looking at other examples of mural codes that are around, that other cities may have, and really talking about like the maintenance and things like that. So that'll be coming up later. I think that's, yeah, the magnet boxes. I don't know if that's part of the mural code, but I know that the business association is working with, that's part of their idea to have those completed. So a lot of good projects happening. Cool.
And Councilor Oberst.
We had a tree board meeting on Thursday. It was mostly about planning for the tree planting on Saturday. We had 2 trees, one of which was a tree that I had grown from a baby. It turned out to not be a good choice for a park because it has berries. Kids and berries don't get along particularly when there's possibility berries might be toxic. So I happened to give that tree to Councilor Carey, and Councilor Carey gave me a different tree that he had raised from a baby. So we went into Madrona Park and planted a tulip poplar. The world record tulip poplar is 192 feet tall. We figured it might reach 100 someday. And Councilor Carey gave us a nice little Japanese maple, and it was planted not far away from the tulip poplar. And one of these days it will dwell in the shade of that tree as a plant. And Russ talked about developing that area as kind of a shade garden with rhodiots and azaleas and so on. So he's taken this tree planting and built a plan around it. Now, we had one tree that we planted last spring, a European hornbeam, that our chair noticed was sitting in a puddle. Its crown was actually below grade. And we looked at that tree and said, let's hold it in there for a few months. I wonder if we can dig that up and raise it. So we did. Now, our chair is concerned because there were 4 of these trees, and this one had dropped all its leaves already, and the other 3 still had leaves on it. But this one we raised was covered with buds. It is just loaded and ready to go for next spring. So it's really wet soil. We're keeping our fingers crossed that it will survive. This area, this particular area, this is either the 2nd or 3rd set of trees that has gone in, and the soil is very wet. So we're also talking to Public Works about maybe dialing back the irrigation just a little bit. So,
All right, thank you.
that's it. Thanks.
Other board meetings, commission meetings.
Planning Commission did not meet this past week, so.
And Councilor McKeel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a report from the library board. Just want to do a shout out, actually, to start out to Terry in the library, who has a wonderful display up for Native American Heritage Month. So I think it might still be there, but you'll have to go quickly because they're going to be closed on Thursday and Friday this week for the Thanksgiving holiday, and they'll open up again as usual for Saturday, November 25th. Want to mention this, Friends of the Library will be holding their winter book sale at the library on Saturday, December 2nd from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So a lot of talk earlier about mysteries. There'll be lots of mystery books there. So go in and have some fun with that. The library is also holding its annual season of giving through December 16th, providing opportunities for community members to help local friends and neighbors in need. And they are accepting donations for 4 different recipients through December 16th. CASA is also, they have a giving tree, and CASA is the court-appointed special advocates that benefits kids in foster care in Polk County. And the library is accepting donations for new unwrapped gifts for kids ages newborn through teens. They are also, it is Share the Month coat and blanket drive, and the library is accepting new and gently used clean coats and blankets of all sizes. And this is in collaboration with Sia Dalton, from Windermere Realtors. And they are also holding a community fund drive, accepting commercially packaged shelf-stable items with a future expiration date. They cannot accept dented, rusted, non-labeled, or expired items. And these foods are going to go to the Ella Curran Food Bank. And our next meeting is Wednesday, December 13th at 7 a.m., which is the second Wednesday of the month. So libraries pitching in for the community this month. Let's all join them.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, and that brings us to the city manager plural report tonight. I'm going to start off with Marty to give us an update, and then we give a letter.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. So I'm going to repeat a couple things that I added into Friday notes last week, just so for everyone's benefit. One is that you might recall our 2042 downtown improvement plan named as a priority that we would be creating a brand and graphic standards to market downtown experience to visitors. And so we had a community survey, and the survey results are in. And so we are launching a new logo for downtown Monmouth. And so we're excited about the images of our two most iconic buildings. And so so hopefully you took a look at Friday notes, or you've seen that the apparent winner. We're going to start seeing that a lot more for promoting the downtown. So that's been an exciting development. A couple of notes about the Monmouth Independence Trolley. We have, as you know, we have had a work group that's been guiding the conduct of that service and taking a look at ridership and so on. And so we, the work group has two efforts underway at the moment. One is we've filed an extension request to the state to ensure that we can spend the entire state grant that we received from, it was state ARPA funds from our senator representative, and spend it for the duration of 2024 to extend basically the ability to provide that service for the longest amount possible. And the idea there is to demonstrate demand for the service. The other is that the work group members have fanned out and have been working with our potential future funding partners to try to secure sustainable funding beyond the year 2024, so that we can, if we can keep the trolley in operation and find, we're going to have to assemble funding sources. Not probably going to all come from a wonderful grant that our state representatives give us. So, so we're going to talk to potential partners to include our school district, the university. There will be some state grants, state transportation grants, and beginning to make some of those asks and understand how the trolley can be successful in finding sustainable long-term funding. So one of the ways, or one of the things that one of our state representatives has mentioned to us that's going to need to happen in terms of the form of the trolley project is to create a local advisory board. So someone beyond the staff work group who's been keeping or looking at the guidance of the way the trolley is being operated. And so we had talked about creating a local joint Monmouth and Independence Advisory Board, which I mentioned to you previously, and then also to include the university on such an advisory board. So we're looking at creating an intergovernmental agreement to establish that board. And as the form of that comes together, you'll get some more news about how we're going to form that, and who we'll invite to have on it. But it'll include representatives from our city, and you'll probably be the first to be invited to serve on. It will be about guiding the future of that service and assisting with finding that funding. So anyway, that's more to come on that. I just want you to know that effort is still underway to create a joint advisory board. Let's see, I have two other things, no, three. So one is that you heard when Wade's report came forward tonight, we have a couple of recruitments underway, including two positions in the Power and Light department, one for a lineman, one for a foreman position. And but anyway, we have some vacancies there. We also have an announced vacancy coming up in the police department, and the cascading effect of that vacancy will mean we'll be recruiting soon for another police officer position. So we had the wonderful moment when we had been at full staff. I got to tell you about that last meeting, and then now we're going to be opening the recruitment again. But but the chief is really, I mean, I think they're doing a good job, as you heard from Chief Haynes last time about some of the planning work that they're doing to get everybody current on training, bringing folks out of field training and having them out on the street. So anyway, we have another recruitment opening soon in the police department. We've had a request from Western Oregon University for tree removal. And it's in service to the alignment for the steam plant replacement. It's a pretty extensive tree removal request, and so it's in consideration now. But as you know, most of the alignments that we've seen for the steam plant project replacement are aligned along Monmouth Avenue. So if you can imagine, again, pretty extensive tree removal plan coming up pretty soon along Monmouth Avenue, the east side. The city is in charge of issuing the permit to allow trees to be removed, and we are in conversation with the university about those plans to try to understand the need and the alternatives that they've considered that would lead to the tree removal. We're talking about a range of 14 to 24 trees along that extent of Monmouth Avenue. And so anyway, the city's considering the request. We are looking at the plans, trying to understand the justification for this alignment and the likelihood that this alignment would go forward, and to understand the intent the university has to communicate and not just make notification, but have a dialogue with the campus community and the Monmouth community about what that might look like as the project goes forward. So I just wanted you to be aware that we've got the request, and I think once we have a more complete set of design drawings, we'll be able to determine what we can issue by way of permit, probably with some conditions around all the dimensions that I just talked about. But I wanted you to be aware. And even though the steam plant, the project for the replacement of the steam plant has a long, it's got a long duration. The tree removal would be happening very soon in anticipation of when the project would go forward in 2024. So that's, so anyway, wanted you to be aware. Finally, some just very brief final thoughts. So this is my final council meeting for tonight, and for tonight is my final council meeting. And I would like to express my gratitude and let you know how fortunate and grateful I am to have been working with you for the last 3 years here. And so I feel like this has been such an exceptional experience for me to work for the city. And I feel like we have achieved a lot together. And I'm so pleased to work with such a strong staff team and city in really strong financial condition. And I just feel really lucky to have had this opportunity. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I would like to take to recognize Marty Lang in recognition of your invaluable leadership as the first female city manager of Monmouth. During your time here, the city of Monmouth continued its forward progress, including the completion of the new city hall and debut of the NHL. Your leadership, teamwork, and commitment to city values leave a legacy that will be enjoyed by the people of Monmouth for years to come. Thank you for your dedication to the city council, staff, community of Monmouth, and its programs. Thank you. And now we have an additional city manager report. Yes. Worcester, can I have you take on sort of some upcoming things we need to discuss?
Well, here I am on day 5, and I'd like to just congratulate all of you on a great hire in Marty, because she is an amazing city manager, and I'm honored to be following her in this role as we move the city forward for the next approximate 6 months. I had the opportunity to meet with all of the department directors this week and have been starting my one-on-one meetings, and I can tell you that the enthusiasm of this department director group is infectious across the organization. People are happy in their work, and it makes coming to work really fun. And I'm also impressed with the skill set of the department leadership and what they bring to this community. And I'm in awe and really grateful to be part of this team moving forward. I wanted to let you know that Marty and I had a meeting with Sarah Singer Wilson this week and her team. They're the consulting group that came in and did your council goals for 2 years. And we talked to them about doing a mid-year check-in as part of our annual council retreat. And so they've identified a few dates for us. And I'll be asking Phyllis to send out a poll to all of you to see your availability. But the proposed dates are Friday, February 23rd, Saturday, February 24th, and Saturday, March 2nd. Those are the 3 options that we have right now. So we'll see if we can get all of you and check your availability for those dates. And so you'll see a couple coming forward within the next few days.
And thinking potentially not needing to do a 2-day, maybe not a full day, as we really do just want to kind of keep rolling forward those goals. We did longer term goals, so it would likely be a 6-day effort. The Fridays might be tough though. You have a date out there. Friday the 23rd would be a potential Friday date.
Yes, and we continue to meet with representatives from Swinnerton about the City Hall construction. We'll continue to push forward to getting that temporary certificate of occupancy. And once we are finally into the building, we will work to get an official ribbon cutting and open house scheduled for you and the public. Let's see. I wanted to also let you know that you'll see an invitation coming out soon for our annual staff appreciation dinner. That is or breakfast, I'm sorry. It's tentatively scheduled for December 11th at 7:30 a.m. And so look for that invitation coming your way as well as we honor the service that our staff is making to the city and community. And let's see, the mayor touched on it briefly about the recruitment process, and so I'll be continuing to work with the mayor on that process. So, thank you, and look forward to working with all of you.
That brings us to council comments and announcements, and just a reminder, quick announcements first. On Thursday, November 30th, it's the President's Winter Wonderland reception at Western Oregon University. And we are invited to attend that.
What time?
So I'm gonna get you a time.
Okay, sorry.
Just a minute. And then, of course, the following night, Friday the 1st, the tree lighting. Again, on campus, the Western Oregon University Foundation offers a reception at the cottage that starts at 5, so that we can all be in line to be ready for the tree lighting at 6. And all the festivities that follow. And Saturday the 2nd, Making Spirits Bright. So once again, we've got great activities throughout downtown. And our City Hall Plaza will be the site of the chili cook-off this year, along with some of the other activities. So that it will get its debut as a gathering spot for downtown on Saturday. Council comments. Carol McKeel gets to go first because it's 2 hours later where she is.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, Thank you, Madam Mayor. She's waiting to see the top of my head as I nod off and just kind of crash into the desk here. And I did want to read the land acknowledgement, so I'm happy to wait until after all the announcements are done, or would you like me to go now? I'm sorry, I missed that?
Go ahead.
Okay. Monmouth, Oregon is located within the traditional homeland of the Lumkemut Band of Kalapuya. Following the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855, Kalapuya people were forcibly removed to the reservations in Western Oregon. Today, living descendants of these people are part of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians. And I would just like to add to the land acknowledgement that these members of our community are still making valuable contributions for all of us today. Thank you.
Other comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
So I just wanted to say thanks to Marty for coming to our Fair City and bringing your husband Tim as well, who I started a relationship with, and we have coffee regularly. So it's we're going to miss both of y'all. So I've worked with, in some capacity, including interims, the last 7 Monmouth City. I think about the first one, Jeff Hexel, who was the joke around town was you give him a suggestion. He said, well, here's the 3 reasons you can't do that. Or here's the 5 reasons why that's a bad idea. Yeah, this is the man who came up with mine. Okay. We've had, just a suite of capacities and capabilities and things that you might wish would be done differently. And through the 3 years you've been here, Mark, I have just been amazed at how you have embraced the entire community. You have embraced the willingness of Monmouth residents to contribute to the good of their own community, which I haven't always seen in all managers. You enabled your staff to do what they do and do it well, and you haven't held them back from doing what they do so well. And you just put all this stuff together. You're amazing as a manager, as a city manager, and I do make a distinction between those 2 things, because you can be a good manager and not be good at doing these things that you have done that have made our city go an incredible distance forward over the years. It's amazing what's gone on. I feel fortunate to have had you. I feel fortunate to have stumbled onto this council seat at just about the same time you got here. Okay, because it has truly been astounding where we've gone. I just want to say thanks to both y'all for coming to our city.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no other comments, and we need to not be on this permit anymore, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move adjourned.
And all in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right.
Good night, Carol. Happy Thanksgiving.